Welcome to America's Mayor Live this Monday evening, April 18th. And I say that we had quite a hearing in New York on Friday and been talking about it all weekend here in New York. And I hope around the country because it exposed one of many frauds that act as or pretend to be district attorneys in 50 or 55 jurisdictions around the country. These district attorneys are putting your life at risk. In fact, they're getting you killed. They're not just putting your life at risk. And of course, they were put there by the man who wants to ruin America, George Soros. Yes, he does. He's opposed to American nationalism. He wants to bring us down, and he wants us to be part of one world. So I want you to understand that motivation because it drives many, many policies, because George Soros is the money bags. He's the man behind all of these different actors who are doing these things where you wake up in the morning and you say, how could they be doing that? Why are they doing that? Oh my, it seems crazy. It's destructive. It just hurts America. They're doing it because George Soros wants it to hurt America. He's paying for it to hurt America. So let's stick with the thing we started with, which is why would someone worth billions of dollars spend millions of dollars trying to defeat very qualified prosecutors who have been keeping their communities safe or quite safe for some time with people who have no qualifications as prosecutors, are zealous criminal defense poverty attorneys, I guess you would call them, who basically want to let people off death row, and much worse than that, believe that incarceration makes criminals worse. So the prosecutors work to make sure that the criminals are out on the street. That, of course, leaves you with a totally useless justice system since there's nobody representing you, the victim. The defense lawyer is representing the defendant. The prosecutor is representing keeping people out of prison so they don't get worse. Missing the entire wisdom of 40 or 50 years of crime reduction, which was begun with the book about career criminals by James Q. Wilson, that said the only really effective way to deal with the high levels of violent crime is to figure out who the career criminals are and put them in jail for lengthy, long periods of time, because every moment they're out on the street, they'll commit another crime. Those are two conflicting ideologies, and one is wrong. The other is right. The problem with the one that's wrong is it leads to massive killing of people, usually 60 to 70% of them being Black Americans. And that's what's going on right now in America. And New York is at the epicenter of it. And the hearings here on Friday illustrated that. Congressman Jordan brought his committee here, along with a bunch of Republicans and some Democrat clowns. In fact, some of the special liars that exist in Washington who spent 4 or 5 years lying about Donald Trump were caught at it and nothing was done about it, like Sewell, whatever the hell his name is, Shifty Schiff. I think Sewell came. Shifty Schiff, who was sleeping during most of it. Shifty Schiff is the one who told us that he has direct evidence of Trump involvement with Russians, and of course never produced it and was never held to account for lying and trying to frame the president of the United States. Nadler, who spent a career lying, I know him. He's a slimy New York politician, exactly what you would think of if you thought of professional Democrat in New York, slimy as hell, lies like hell. He's the one who opposed impeachment for Clinton, but was very enthusiastically in support of capital punishment for Donald Trump. Obviously a principled human being, and lied enormously over and over again about Russian collusion. Well, he was part of the hearing also. Although I have to tell you, the good thing about it is they laughed at him, but he's a laughable character. I always thought it was a terrible mistake of Pelosi to use him as the front man for the afternoon hearings, which were really more like afternoon, those afternoon romantic stories they used to have on television. Except I got to tell you, take a good look at Jerry. That ain't no leading man. I'll tell you that.
Mayor, how long have you known Mr. Jerry Nadler?
I knew him when he was 940 pounds, and now that he's 12 pounds. He's like Sharpton. I knew Sharpton when he was 450 pounds, and now he's about 90 pounds. And when he turns around, you can't see him because he doesn't even have a profile any longer. The good thing about Sharpton and Nadler both is at 100 and 450 pounds and at 90 pounds, they're just as big liars and anti-American haters.
And was Congressman Nadler, was he in Congress in the 90s when you were mayor?
Yes, he was. And we agreed on one thing, which was the freight rail tunnel. Otherwise, he was I can't think of anything. He never produced a freight rail tunnel or anything else in Congress. It's been a useless, endless number of years in Congress, except for his attempting to frame Donald Trump.
So you did have interactions with him, and then of course, Al Sharpton.
Well, it's basically a completely useless congressional delegation. I mean, it's mostly made up of crooks.
How do they keep getting reelected in Manhattan?
Because they own the electorate. Let's take Charlie Rangel, who got reelected year after year and ended up making 15, 20 million being a stockholder in inner city broadcasting, making millions on that, and doing absolutely squat for Harlem. When I took over, Harlem was a disaster. That's after years and years of all these people, like Charlie Rangel and the Democratic Party working on Harlem. It went from bad to worse to worse to worse to worse to worse. Person who turned around Harlem is yours truly, not part of the Democrat crooked machine that takes advantage of black people. Also gets them killed by ridiculous crime programs that make it impossible to really incarcerate criminals who hurt them. Also, they have contributed mightily to the total destruction of New York education for minorities by failing to support a school choice, vouchers, accountability for teachers, differential pay for teachers, anything that would distinguish the good teacher from the bad teacher they oppose, because they are with the teachers union, which represents only the bad teachers. They do nothing for the good teachers. They represent the bad teachers because they will not allow you to pay any extra money to a good teacher. And they make sure that you have to keep bad teachers even when they molest children. They keep them on for 3-4 years extra while you have to go through the process of proving it. This is not an isolated problem. There are, as there usually are in New York City, a large number of these problems. I learned a long time ago, long before you did with the pandemic, that the teachers union is an entirely Marxist organization bent on destroying American education and brainwashing our children. So this hearing that was held had a group of mothers who testified, whose children have died at the hands of Mr. Bragg. This is the man who has entered the phony indictment against Donald Trump. Now, I say phony indictment because I don't know why anyone pays any attention to it. It's a completely fraudulent instrument. It does not charge a crime properly, either under New York Criminal Code 250.10, nobody bothers to look at it, or under the due process clauses of the 5th and 14th Amendment. It does not apprise the defendant of what he's charged with. It says that he was filing false papers in order to cover up a crime. A crime. Not what crime. You can't charge someone with doing something in order to cover up a crime and say that's a felony, because you have to say what the crime is. I mean, there are lots of crimes. If I charge you with filing false documents to cover up a crime, oh my goodness, it could be perjury. It could be false statements. It could be murder. It could be burglary. It could be robbery. It could be picking your nose. It could be jaywalking. It could be one of, I think, about 1,000 felonies outlined in the New York Penal Code. I mean, that's absurd. It's ridiculous. It's childish. It's infantile. It would only be done with by a person who really is a laughingstock of a lawyer, which is what they are now in the DA's office. Not only Bragg, but his assistants had to approve that indictment. Now, Bragg says there's a New York law that allows you to do that. He's yet to cite that New York law, because the moment the law is cited, it will be declared unconstitutional, because the Constitution doesn't allow you to do it. The Constitution requires you, under due process, to apprise the defendant of the charge against him with sufficient specificity so he can answer the charge. Of course, right? Now, sufficient specificity certainly means telling him the crime. So I don't understand, as I've told you numerous times, why they let him plead to it, but they did. He could have just looked at that indictment and said, this is a nullity. But in any event, this joke of a DA put in there by Soros, like the ones who were ruining other democratic cities across the country almost uniformly, also has another side to him, which is not only does he prosecute for political purposes, which is dangerously anti-American, very much a fascist tactic, but he also lets out on the street large numbers of dangerous criminals who are making New York a very dangerous city. And we have a mayor and a governor who would like to stop him, but don't have the guts to do it. In fact, the mayor is so bad, the mayor now agrees with him. The mayor now defends him. This is very, very strange, because up till now, the mayor had been silent about him, sort of giving the impression that he wasn't really in favor of all this, because people say, well, it isn't Adams' fault, it's Bragg's fault. After all, what can Adams do with the police if the DA doesn't charge the cases? Now, the problem is, I'm going to find you this quote here about him, but the problem is that Bragg can be removed by the governor, Hochul. Now, after any one of these cases that was described on Friday, he should have been removed when he let murderers go free or other very dangerous criminals go free. But he wasn't removed by the governor, nor did Adams make any kind of statement suggesting that he should be removed. But he's never come out and supported him, which now means that he's equally responsible with Bragg for what Bragg is doing. I mean, I want you to listen to this this was done early this morning. This was done early this morning on my friend's show, Sid Rosenberg, Sid and Friends in the Morning. And he has kind of an affection for Adams, which I don't know that he and I agree with. I'll tell you a story about it in a minute, but just listen to how slippery, slimy Adams, who has up until this date sort of separated himself from Bragg. Now, I guess we can just say he's
now we hear the grand jury maybe another month. It ain't going to happen, because the truth is Alvin Bragg does not have a case. What are your thoughts on the Manhattan DA getting in so deep that he tried to bring a case that, quite frankly, Mr. Mayor, doesn't exist?
You know, there's one thing I learned, Sid. Let prosecutors do their job, and I'll do my job. I do not get involved with it. I do know that there are layers to an investigation, and that I don't.
Now, how would he know there are layers to the investigation unless Bragg is illegally giving the mayor grand jury information? Prosecutors didn't brief me on cases when I was the mayor, and they were all friends of mine. In fact, they were all former colleagues. Unlike Adams, I had a distinguished career before I was mayor. I wasn't a useless cop who never arrested anybody, like he was, and a make-believe cop who ran 1,000 black men in law enforcement and called Police Commissioner Kelly a liar. I was actually quite an accomplished prosecutor. And I never, and district attorney never would, nor should brief me on a case. So right there, Adams is either committing a felony by taking grand jury information from Bragg, which Bragg gives out all the time. I mean, the press just overlooks it, but Bragg commits felonies every day by leaking grand jury information, and his office does. But in any event, and they did in the Trump case. I mean, the only felonies committed in the Trump case are by the DA's office. So that's a highly incriminating statement. This is either Mayor the liar or Mayor the felon. Let's go on, because there's no way he would know the details of the case unless they were giving him grand jury information.
Recall the DA ever stated that where was he in the process? I think there was a lot of speculations, there was a lot of rumors, there were a lot of innuendos flying around. But I think the DA has been extremely professional and really been focused.
He could be the only person in New York who thinks the DA has been professional. The DA has leaked every damn thing. He's been absolutely the opposite of professional. He's been a study in unethical behavior. And then, of course, he charged an indictment that would have to be done by someone who didn't go to law school. And Adams comes up with he did a good job, which is not even close to true. Let's see if we get a little more of the rest of this from our undistinguished mayor.
There was a lot of rumors, there were a lot of innuendos flying around. But I think the DA has been extremely professional and really been focused on what his job was, and that is to conduct an investigation. And once that investigation comes to a conclusion, then we'll know what's going to happen when any form of announcement or no announcement is made. But that's his role. He has the non-mandate of, that allows him to make the determination on how to move forward and let him do his job. And I have enough on my plate to play the role of a district attorney.
Get the point what he is? He's a double talking bullshit artist, right? That's what he is. And he was a useless police officer. I have, as I often ask if anyone can come across with any arrest that he ever made that was meaningful. I don't know of one. There are very few good police officers I know that never made a meaningful arrest. He was not a good police officer. He was one stinking, lousy politician, police officer. And he is a extreme disappointment as a mayor. Now they're playing with numbers because crime, or some crimes, are down this year. So they're saying crime is down. Overall, since he's been mayor, crime is up. And we have, let's put it this way. We have more crime in New York now than we had under de Blasio, since he and Bragg have been hanging around. So I think these hearings did a very, very good job. I think these hearings did a very, very good job of illustrating what is going on in my city. But I would ask you to look at it as very closely, is this going on in your city? Because this is not terribly different in Philadelphia. We spoke today. I spoke today to 2 people from Philadelphia, and yesterday 2 people from Philadelphia, 4 people from Philadelphia, all different people. I mean, 2 knew each other, and 2 knew each other, and they said it's worse than New York.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right. Well, Megan's been on the show, and she's one of them.
Yeah.
But these other 3 have not been on the show, and they each told me the same thing Megan told me, that things are impossible to describe under Krasner. The DA in Philadelphia has been doing what Bragg has been doing for 3 times longer, which means he has 3 times more victims. He's killed a lot of people there. He's gotten a lot of people killed there. During the hearing, it was really interesting. I did a calculation a while back using some of my old formulas that I used under ComStat, which I have really forgotten to some extent, but I went back and I found a few of them. And I made a calculation, and I was never sure exactly how good it is, but it's a calculation. And it was about 6,000 to 8,000 criminals, dangerous criminals, are on the street now than when I was mayor or when Bloomberg was mayor. which would account for the additional crime and havoc and mayhem that's going on. Well, somebody actually testified to that. That was they're about. He did a study. I don't know how he did it. I got to find him. He did a study and came to the conclusion there are 6,000 additional criminals on the street that would have been incarcerated under the prior two administrations. The prior administration before Bloomberg, de Blasio, which would have been Bloomberg and me. Remember, the police commissioner under Bloomberg was the legendary police commissioner Ray Kelly, who our present mayor called a liar and a racist, I believe. Which is calumny and defamation of the worst.
While Bloomberg was mayor,
Ray Kelly saved a hell of a lot more lives than Adams ever did.
How often did you talk to Mayor Bloomberg when he was mayor?
Oh, not a lot. I mean, maybe once a month. If there was something going on, maybe a lot. I mean, if there was a particular thing where I could help, if things were going along fine, not at all. But I saw him socially a lot.
At events, obviously.
I saw him at events a lot. We went to baseball games a lot.
He was a Yankees fan?
And Mets, both.
Oh, he was both. You're just a Yankees
I was
fan.
just a Yankee fan, but I go to Met games. I mean, I used to go to Met games before I got PO'd about the Black Lives Matter. Not about the Mets. I actually got PO'd at the Yankees.
Yeah.
Over Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, you haven't been back.
I haven't been back. All right, and it's killing me because I watch the games now and I root for them. I just have a hard time going back. I just remember Hicks doing a big thing about Black Lives Matter. I remember a whole bunch of the other ones doing it. I remember some of them kneeling during the national anthem. Not Aaron Judge, by the way. Now here's the problem for me and Black Lives Matter. At any time, all you had to do is pick up this thing, or your phone, and look at Google. Now it takes a little while with Google to find it because they hide all the stuff that's anti-communist, anti-red wing, anti-red communist, anti-Democrat, whatever. But if you look just a little bit, you get the manifesto of Black Lives Matter. You don't need much more. Black Lives Matter, stands for number 2 is breaking up the generic family. It wants to take over children at about 2 years old and put them in school. It has very little to do about race. It really began as a out of control lesbian advocacy group, and Patrisse Cullors, in her little circular, proudly tells you she's a Marxist. Of course, they employ several police killers who have been let out by Democratic presidents who train them. And then you just need to know one thing at every rally, even their peaceful ones. I haven't found a peaceful one yet, but they say there are some. They will chant, "Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon." That is an invocation to murder police officers, which, since they have become prominent, has been very effective because many more police officers die. I can't tolerate that. There's no compromise for me with that. When you encourage the killing of the men and women who keep us safe by putting their lives at risk, when we don't do that, then I have nothing to do with you. And for baseball, Major League Baseball, not to realize that and not to take the time to take a little look when people like me who love baseball and love America were saying it, and others, is an outrage. It's an outrage, and I forgive, and they don't do it now, and I'll probably completely get over it at some point, but it's still very, very raw. It's like the people who aren't doing Budweiser or Nike, which I encourage tremendously because of how they are encouraging the mutilation of children. And that's what they're doing, by the way. They are proselytizing and they are indoctrinating. They are not trying to make you more loving and caring and tolerant of people who are transgender. There's a lot of ways to do that. One of the ways is not to entice young people and give them doubts about their sexuality. Young people, and I'm talking about up to the age of about 21, maybe even a little older, but 21, of course, is the legal age, or 18, I guess, are extraordinarily impressionable. You don't have to be a psychiatrist. psychologist or a terribly well-educated person to know that. And when you expose them to highly questionable things about sex at an early age, or very sensational things about sex at an early age, or you sexualize them even before puberty, God have mercy on your soul. I mean, who are you? What are you? I think you're some kind of pervert if you do that. And you know, this is some kind of an actor, actress, performance artist. This isn't a person really struggling through transgender. This is a joke, the stuff that she does. Transgender, I don't know what to say. First of all, I'm going to tell you this is a man, okay? Don't give me this transgender garbage. This is a man. I'm going to tell you why it's a man, because it's got what a man has. When you get rid of what a man has, you're not a man anymore, maybe. But certainly you can't make an argument you're a man when you got what a man has in order to urinate. So don't give me that stuff, and don't start modeling bras for Nike. What the hell's that all about? You want to get little boys encouraged to wear bras? What's wrong with you? So why don't you take Nike and throw it out the window, huh? Don't even throw it out the window because somebody else may use it. See if you can throw it in the river. Huh? There aren't that many that you'll pollute the river. And Nikes don't pollute the river. So don't come and sue me, you know, river keepers or anybody else like that by throwing the Nikes in the river. I'd say burn them, but you might burn a building down if you burn them. I don't know. Maybe you could use them in your rubber. I don't know if are they even made of rubber? I don't even know what they're made of. I never got Nikes because they don't make withs. They only make shoes for skinny little feet.
What tennis shoes would you purchase? What was your tennis shoe brand? New Balance.
Yeah. I was a big tennis player at one time. I mean, I wasn't that good, but I think I was a better tennis player than golfer. My son is the golfer. My son was a professional golfer, of course.
New Balance is kind of known as the dad shoe among my generation.
Because it has big feet. It's a shoe for men. It's got big feet. Men who got big feet. I once went to an Italian shoemaker. He wouldn't make the shoe because my shoe is too. He said he would sort of be like it would offend his artistic feelings if he had to make such a wide shoe because my foot is too wide. I said, "Are you absolutely kidding me?" I would not make a shoe. Your foot is too wide. I cannot. It would be bad for my reputation. You mean I won't tell anybody you made the damn shoe? I mean, you know, I won this shoe.
What year was this?
2005, maybe.
Oh, even then, after everything you did.
This was in Milan.
Well, I'm surprised. I was thinking maybe this was when you were a young man.
I gave a speech for a big Italian group with a lot of people, a lot of American, maybe Newt was with me and a whole bunch of others.
Newt.
And as part of the festival, they gave a whole bunch of people like this, these little certificates, and everybody got like a different. Some people got a custom-made suit. I should have got a custom-made suit. Suit would have been worth a lot more.
Oh my goodness!
But I got custom-made
shoes. Wait, Mayor. All right. So the choices were a custom-made suit.
It wasn't a choice. They just gave it to you.
So like some people got suits, others got the shoes.
These were the sponsors of the event.
Sure.
So unfortunately, they were too damn cheap to give it out to everybody. So they gave everybody like a thing. I mean, some people got leather goods. And
yeah.
I forgot if it was Florence or Milan. But I stayed because anytime I get to Italy, I try to stay and try to find my relatives. And I stayed. And I went to the shoe place that was going to do it, was going to make it for me and send it to America.
Yeah.
And he had a whole conniption about, eventually I got a pair of shoes off the rack, someplace else that he sent me. I mean, like it's much cheaper. I could have bought these shoes easily. I mean,
yeah,
these shoes weren't as good as my.
They were Italian made though. I mean, you buying them off the rack in Italy.
So was a lot of the stuff the mafia does Italian made. It doesn't mean it's good just because it's Italian made. Italians can make great stuff and Italians can make crap. I've never been into this, like these people who feel they have to defend You know how certain people get very defensive if you attack their group with something valid?
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah. Uh-oh.
yeah, like God forbid you should talk about black on black crime, and then
Yeah.
blacks will go crazy thinking you're talking about all blacks when
Yeah.
you know you're talking about a very small minority
Yeah.
that needs to be dealt with. And
Yeah.
if they're not going to be dealt with, blacks are going to get hurt. In fact, if you can't talk about black and black crime, black or white, you're a racist.
I mean, it's a vast majority
I've never
of,
had a problem
of
with
mass
Italians.
shooters.
Yeah, I've never had a problem. I love my heritage. I probably know it more than most. I'm an opera lover. You want to test me on opera? Try. Few people have. I won.
We're gonna do that on one of these episodes. I'm gonna play 5 or 10 seconds of these
Yeah,
opera.
what do you want to play? I mean,
I'm not gonna tell you, and then you're gonna have to guess.
People have tried this before.
We're gonna do this live on the show.
I won money on this. I used to do this at an Italian restaurant with the guy who had a jukebox with arias, and he would tell me that he claimed he had a lot of esoteric arias, and he didn't. If you had esoteric arias, you'd beat me. But if you play the usual stuff, I mean, I'm not as good as I used to be because I don't listen as much as I used to. But the way I did it was I had basically all the extant recordings memorized. So if you played Madame Butterfly, I would have known if you were playing the Tibaldi, Callas, Victoria de Los Angeles version of it. If I could pick up one of the voices in it because I knew their tenors, then I could get the whole opera. All I had to do is pick up one voice, then I could get the whole opera.
The whole thing.
So if I heard Giuseppe, if I heard Bergonzi, then I would know it was Tibaldi's recording on London Records. So that's the way I did it. You know, Chicago had a tremendous riot over the weekend. We were back in like Floyd territory, 550 riots, 27 people killed. Here we had 2 people injured seriously, but nobody killed, thank God. But the whole city went nuts. We had smash and grab going on ad infinitum. Who knows how much damage was done. Chicago was shown to the world. Now, after it's selected, it's defund the police, let them out of jail, mayor, as opposed to a responsible human being as mayor. So for 55 straight years, the city who selected Democrats and the city that has more murders over a weekend than most war zones. And those murders are concentrated among black people, particularly black young people, elected a guy who's going to get even more of them murdered. And it didn't take long to prove that he's going to encourage crime in one of our most crime-ridden cities that is absolutely falling apart, and that's Chicago. Do we have any pictures of what went on in?
We do.
You want to send one to me?
I'll send it to you, and maybe now, before we do that, now might be a good time to play our first ever advertisement.
Oh, well, 100%, and I would take this very, very seriously. This is a great offer, and take it up while we organize ourselves. Faith and family, freedom and finance are 4 things that we would do anything to protect. I trust the team at Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors, with providing the advice and sound strategies to take advantage of the inflationary pressures, the high interest rates, and the international challenges we face today. The Kirk Elliott team, with over 29 years of experience, shares our values and believes in people over profit. They can help you protect your finances from the big government policies that are out of our control. So what's in our control? The decision to act or not to act is within our control. I encourage you to act. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors today. Start working with a team that will help you protect your retirement assets with gold and silver while sharing your desire to protect your faith, family, and freedom. Call them today, 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, and tell them Rudy sent you. Or simply fill out a request for a free consultation at kirkelliottphd.com/Rudy. That's kirkelliottphd.com. And give them a call. What do you got to lose? I mean, figure out what they can do for you in terms of protecting yourself during this volatile time. I mean, it's very sound advice. And notice I felt so strongly about it, I put a tie on. Right? You saw the tie. I've talked to Kirk. In fact, I think sometime this week we'll have Kirk on as to give us some advice on the economy in general. So you'll get to meet him, you get to know him, and I think you're going to help yourself by calling him, whether you end up, investing with him or getting a better idea of how to handle your finances. We all can use advice in that regard. So what's going on while you're looking for that clip? What's going on with the president's race? I mean, DeSantis and Trump. It does seem that Trump is building his lead, and that the early speculation that this Bragg indictment would help him has turned out to be even underestimated. We're looking at a lead now. I guess the average poll is about 20-something%. But you got a couple. I'm talking about the average. I think you're talking about 30 and 35 in some polls. And we see Pompeo has dropped out. I think a wise move. What do you think of? You think there's any chance that DeSantis might drop out, Ted?
I think so, Mayor. I think, and we talked about this before, and you kind of explained this to me, and it makes very, very good sense. There's an exception to every rule. Generally speaking, the rule is if a window of opportunity is there to run for president and people are really talking about you, you almost take advantage of that no matter what the rest of the field looks like, right? Because you don't know how long that window opens, if it ever comes again. It's literally the presidency of the United States. Everybody, in this, so you take advantage of that. However, there is a big potential downside for Governor DeSantis if he is to run. If he runs and beats Trump in the primary, which I don't think either of us think is likely, but if somehow that were to happen, President Trump and his millions of supporters could really deal a blow to him by not coming out in the general. And so obviously for DeSantis to beat Trump, it's going to be a pretty ugly primary, right? And then if DeSantis loses to Trump, which is more than likely, how damaged is he for the future?
Now I should tell you that my advice there, I do have to attribute to a column, a short one, and I'll get the name of it for you tomorrow because I like to attribute these in Epoch Times, and it was an excellent column. No, it was a letter to the editor. I'm sorry, it was a letter to the editor in Epoch Times, and it basically said that it's kind of a discretion is the better part of valor sort of essay, and it said DeSantis may be much smarter, even though the general rule is run when you can, not to, and sit back and keep his powder dry for 28. Because again, as Ted says, if he loses to Trump, it's going to be a bloody loss. It's going to leave a lot of scars and anger. Particularly since you do have a loyalty issue. I mean, it isn't, you can't just, you can say, well, somebody should run for president anytime they want. But I mean, Trump did support him. Trump did make him. And you want any proof of that, read his book. He tells you that in his book. So he's got a downside in running against him that Trump supporters are angry about. Possibly some people in the middle of the road are going to feel we don't want a guy that, is as disloyal as that. If he wins, he does risk Trump not supporting him. I think Trump will support him. I know Trump's supporters. They may not listen to Trump, or at least not in sufficient percentage that they come out with the great enthusiasm they're going to have to come out with to beat a Democrat. So that's where I think possibly if the numbers stay where they are, he should think about it. If the numbers get worse, he should do it. And this has lasted a long time now, this drop, and it seems to be continuing. We got to see where the bottom is.
And Mayor, speaking of Florida, we have our first call. We're going to take Alex, and Alex is calling us from
What beautiful part of Florida.
Florida. Let's connect here.
We should be down there a bit next week.
We will be there. So, Alex, can you hear me?
Maybe we'll do some shows on location.
Yes, I can.
That's always nice.
Alex, you're on with the mayor.
Hi, Mayor. How are you?
Hello?
Giuliani, how you doing today? Hello? Hello, Giuliani?
I do not hear Alex.
You don't hear Alex. So let me give you
Can
a
you-
headset.
Well, I do have a headset.
We have one on, but this one's really-
Can you hear me now? Hello?
All right, Alex.
Hello?
What do we have?
Hi, Alex. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Well,
I'm doing great, Alex. What's up?
well, I wanted to give you guys the heads up, more or less, of what you're dealing with, and
Wow.
pretty much how to face it. I want to help you and Trump out and the United States out, because what you guys are facing at this present time is the same thing that I'm Cuban. So my people faced back in the day, and they're still facing to this day. The justice system that you have in there are a bunch of communists, and they just sell their souls to do things on their agenda.
Now tell me why.
So-
Tell me how you come to that conclusion, Alex. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just like you to explain it to our audience.
Well, it's simple, because Cubans came to the United States for freedom, and we were supposed to regroup and go back home. Once coming here to the United States, we have confronted the FBI and other agencies that prevented us from dealing with these type of people legally, and many different options. Every door we went to, every window we went to, it will always close or always shut down. There's a load of intelligences, Cuban intelligence in here. They come in and out of the country,
You do
and
have that.
nothing. They don't get touched. We have people that
We're talking about
been in
communists, Cuban communists.
yes, communists.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cuban
okay.
communists.
Right.
They come in and out, and they have ordered. They were in charge of concentration camps, and in Cuba, and they come in and out like nothing. And then they have assassinated people and tortured people, and they come in and out like nothing. Second of all, it's pretty simple. This is the only country that at one point in time was trying to point missiles to the United States. Nothing has ever become of it.
Yep.
Everything that Cuba does, nothing has ever become of it. Why? Because the Democrats put Fidel in power. They're in bed with him.
Trudeau, Castro.
That's-
Castro. Trudeau may be his son.
Correct.
Remember?
With-
Trudeau may be his son.
Correct. Correct.
I think that
Because
was a Freudian
see-
slip, my friend.
yeah, so
That's good.
they're
That was
trying to
good.
throw you. They're trying to throw to you that China is a problem. No, China is a problem financially, not intelligently. Another thing you need to do is connect the dots. You work with the mob. You saw how you took down the mob and how it works. Nothing has changed, just the players.
Well, I mean,
Cuba is Cuba is the only place that has spread communism throughout
Well,
the whole entire globe.
I want you
That's-
to keep up with us, and when you have information like this, I want to make sure you call us. All right, because maybe not everybody lets you put this on the air. We do, and you have to know I have tremendous respect for the Cuban people. I think they're one of the biggest contributors to a patriotic America of any of the groups that have come here, and it's also remarkable.
Well-
it's also remarkable the success. It's also remarkable the success that that the Cuban Americans have had here. when it's been just a generation, and now we're into second and third, and these are some of the most successful people in America. And it shows you what can happen when you flee communism, which is being imposed on us now by Biden, and you come to what used to be freedom. That's missing. I mean, if he's in Florida, he probably has freedom because DeSantis protects it, or Texas, because Abbott protects it. But if he's in New York or Chicago or California or Michigan or any of the places run by Biden acolytes, communists like Biden, who rule by dictate and mandate, then he's looking at a communist country. And of course, the criminal justice system, given just the Bragg indictment is just indicative of thousands and thousands of indictments that are part of the politicization of the justice system, and that is a sure indication of fascism. I mean, the only reason they're going after Trump is politics. When you have a criminal justice system that has descended so low as to do that, you got the sure markings of a fascist or communist state. So it may sound a little overblown. It may sound a little frightening, and it may be hard to accept. But I think the gentleman is right on target. Right on target. So I wanted Ted.
Yes, Mayor.
Any others?
We got some more calls. We're screening them as we.
Well, if you're not ready.
We're not ready. We have the chat.
Let's see what we have here. Fascist state 100%. God bless you. Rudy Jeep Girl. I removed her already. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, moderators are kind of helping me out, Mayor, as we go here. Yeah, let's take a call from Madison, Wisconsin.
Madison, Wisconsin. Let's see.
Is this
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
You're on the air.
Let's see. Yes, this is Gidget Howard. That's my real name. It's not a nickname. It's a real name. I have a message for Giuliani, I've got what I've got is a book that I want to send him, and I know he's going to love this book. I want to send one to Trump, too. It's from the 1800s, and I would like to leave a message where you can give him the address and that. And he can check
Okay,
that.
well, we'll take that.
I'll take it off the air.
Okay, let's take it off the air so we don't create privacy problems for Gidget. And she did have her phone on in the background, and it was a little hard to hear. It was a little hard to hear, Gidget, but let's see. We'll find out what that book is. So a couple of things that you should that we should kind of cover. And I wanted to get into that Chicago riot that occurred over the weekend, because it really shows you how close we are to that happening in other cities. We do have in New York, and we never had it before, this phenomenon of crash and grab. Crash and grab meaning smashing into a department store, a jewelry store, a store, and with a group of anywhere from 8 to 25 thugs, and smashing up the display cabinets, taking out the jewelry, taking out the sneakers, taking out the bicycles, taking out the whatever they can take out, the valuables. Jewelry is their major target because of the amounts of money you can pull out. And these things have ranged from a couple 100,000, a couple million that has been done. And the strange thing about it is there is no resistance to it. No resistance by the security, no resistance by the civilians, as there shouldn't be by the civilians, and no resistance by the police, who often stand by and watch, which is reminiscent of the Floyd situation. And I predicted this when that happened. In fact, I predicted the riots when the totally irresponsible, inept, childish boy mayor of Minneapolis let his police station get taken by a mob. I said, this is the worst day for the police. This is going to be seen on television, and criminals are going to mimic this behavior in other parts of the United States. And of course, they did. They mimicked it in other parts of the United States, and now they mimic it all over, including in New York. But this one in Chicago was a particularly overblown one. Now, do we have any pictures of that?
Mayor, and I'm going to bring them up right here directly to the screen, but I've also emailed them to you there.
Well, you're going to put them on?
Yeah, I'm going to try to put them on.
Well, if you can put them on, I will take a look at them, and then I want to play for you the encouragement given to it by the mayor-elect, who is going to be worse than Lori Lightfoot of Chicago. Now, this is about as good an indication of the downfall of Chicago as you're going to get. I love Chicago. I'm not saying this with any pleasure at all. I'm saying it with great sadness. It's a great city.
Well, thanks for joining us, America's
I'm going to tell you,
we are bringing the photos up now.
Chicago and the Chicago police, along with, I would have to say, Florida, excuse me, gave me the most help after September 11. My gratitude to the Chicago police and to the Mayor Daley is endless in what they did for us after September 11, and everybody helped us. It'd be too long for me to thank everyone, but if I had to single out two people, it would be Jeb Bush and Mayor Richard Daley. So to me, this is.
So here we go, Mayor. We have these images here.
Yeah, this is just a brief. We're not sure which night this. It was like, I think Friday, Saturday, and a little bit of Sunday. Well, certainly Friday and Saturday, and it happened, as you can see, daytime, nighttime. You see the smoke. Look at that, jumping on the cars. We look. It looks like we're looking at the Floyd riots, right? There's another car being stomped on. It looks like I might hold that one up a bit. That looks like it might be a police car or a cab. I can't tell.
With the number on the back.
Yeah, I wish we could see the Chicago police with the hats with the. No, only if you have it. I love those hats. I love those policemen. I'm going to tell you why in a minute. When you retire, you sending me a signal. Look at that. Is that a girl standing up there? Or who? I guess we can't make such determination. I can't. First of all, we can't say girl anymore, and we'd have to figure out the proper pronoun. Correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
More pictures coming in.
We'd have to go with the right pronoun here. Or if you get the wrong pronoun? What happens to you? Are you shot, or are you hung, or are you mummified, or what? What happens if you get the wrong pronoun?
That's a good question. I think we'd have to ask the pronoun.
Look, a couple of these he, she's are tough. Nobody's being disrespectful now. But can you tell the difference sometimes? Come on, Ted.
Mayor,
you hang out with me. I know you can't tell the difference sometimes.
That's right, Mayor. That's right. So,
Sometimes I turn to Ted and I said, is it a girl or a boy? Or a man or a woman? And I get, Or what is that dressed up for?
Well, we don't want to assume things.
You want to get dressed up like that on the stage and for comedy and joking around. Great. But going into classrooms with kids?
There's some more photos.
Come on. Yeah, this looks like, if you look at the right here, if we're looking at the same one, there you see them really stomping on. When you go back to that one, you can see that they've done a job in that store on the right. Probably everything cleaned out of that. Yeah, I don't think Chicago is even going to give you a number here in terms of how much damage. But I mean, I can just tell you, it's got to. I would not be, if I just said $100 million, I'd be way low. And we have 2 seriously injured people, critical condition. Got a lot of other smaller injuries. Now go to the next one. The next one looked like it's going to show you another typical thing that goes on here. Look at that, jumping up and down in the car. That's somebody's car. What we call, in America, we call that private property. You don't get to destroy it, deface it, damage it. Now, I'm going to tell you how, I'm going to give you now a professional lesson that I used to charge people money for when I had a security business, because I used to teach crime reduction all over the world. You see that? That doesn't have to happen. I'm going to tell you why I know it doesn't have to happen. I was mayor of New York City for 8 years. I took over a city that was prone to riot. It had had two of its worst riots ever under David Dinkins. One of them a pogrom, where they just went out looking for Jewish people, beat them up, and kill them. Okay. I inherited a city that had, approximately 2,000 murders a year and riots and an out-of-control community and a guy named Al Sharpton who loved to encourage them and was expert at encouraging them. You know how many riots I had in 8 years? Did you know I knew I would have none? Bet you didn't know that. Because I knew that if I addressed it all in the right way, there were a bunch of bullies who run these, including Fat Al, because he was Fat Al then. You know, you think of Al now, right? You think of Al Sharpton now, and you think of a guy that I'm looking for. If I have a quote from him, I'll take a look a little later. We did have one from him, but I think it was last week. But the way to police a riot comes from a report done on the whole riot that took place in Crown Heights, the anti-Jewish pogrom riot. It was a report done by an aide to then Governor Mario Cuomo. And here's one of the lessons. Do not allow them a period of, they used to call it a cooling off period. The cooling off period meant, hey, if they just broke a window or they smashed open a car or they went into one small store and took a few things, don't make a big deal out of it because that's going to excite the crowd. The advice from Mr. Gigenti, who wrote the report, was just the opposite. And it followed along the theory of the broken windows theory. Stop the first illegal act cold. No matter how small it is. Stop the second. Stop the third. And there's never a fourth. So the first one that throws a rock that you see, 10 cops go in, they drag them out, and you put them in prison. You don't do a brag and let them out. If you got brag, you're going to have a riot because he's going to let them out. That's why the first thing, if Adams was a real mayor, first thing he would have done when he became mayor is get rid of Bragg. The minute Bragg put out that statement, I'm not enforcing the law, it was over for Bragg. And you say, well, how could he have done it? He could have gone to the governor and said, Governor, you're running for re-election, right? Yeah. And you could lose, right? Right. And I'm real popular. I just got elected, right? How would you like it if I supported your opponent unless you get rid of that damn bail law? Then he could have gone and seen the two bullies in the state legislature who were doing this, a guy named Stuart Cousins, and then the woman, left-wing communist maniac. And he could have said to them, I got a lot of extra time as mayor. I'm going to hang out in your district and tell people not to vote for you if you get my people killed. And every time there's a killing as a result of your bail law and reducing the age law, I'm going to tell people you got them killed. I'm going to name them. I'm going to show them the pictures. I'm going to invite the people in your district to the funeral. I'm going to ask them to raise money for the families of the person who was lost because they are responsible for it because they voted for you. Your life will be miserable. Well, they may have been his friends, but I had friends I lost because they hurt the city of New York. It isn't about friends. It isn't about preserving yourself to run for president. I ran for president, but I never preserved myself for running for president, ever. I figured maybe I'd be president if I did a damn good job. And if I didn't do a damn good job, maybe I shouldn't be president. And if I were a coward like Adams, I'd figure maybe I should go back to running 1,000 black men in law enforcement or something. They probably wouldn't want to be so damn ineffective. So you saw that, right? Now, here is the reaction of the mayor-elect. Remember, the mayor-elect has been given to us by the Communist Teachers Union. He worked for them. They raised 67% of his funds. He has been a defund the police guy and he doesn't believe that incarceration is helpful. This guy doesn't believe that incarceration is helpful to reducing crime. So let's listen to this genius, Brandon Johnson, soon to be the mayor of America's now third or fourth largest city. Okay. Third largest city, soon to be disappearing as a great city, if it hasn't already.
The question is, how do we make sure that people can eat? Look, no one is going to condone, behavior that quite frankly speaks to a level of desperation.
So you're not condoning looting.
I'm saying that people are acting out of desperation. We don't want a society that is acting out of desperation, but you have to pay attention to the cries that people have.
They're not acting out of desperation. They're stealing jewelry, you jackass. They're using it as an excuse to steal, not out of desperation. Most of them get more welfare than they would get if they were working. A lot of them are on welfare 3 and 4 times. A lot of them are making more money than people who work. Where does this bull come from? Desperation. What do they teach you that in communist school? Or you had to go to communist school if you work for the teachers union. You're for defunding the police in a city where your black young men are getting slaughtered, Brandon. What kind of creep are you? What have you done about the murders in Chicago every weekend? About the mothers that are crying and burying their children because you're running a corrupt city? And don't tell me your city isn't corrupt. The idiots in Philadelphia love to go after me because of the election. Oh, like the Bar Association people. They really cheat in Philadelphia? Yeah, they cheat, and the DA in Philadelphia gets people murdered. That's what happens in Philadelphia. People get slaughtered in the streets, and a lot of them are black people, and you black politicians don't give a damn. I do. And I'm going to call you out every time until you stop it, until we catch you and we get rid of you. Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, may very well be the thing that's put on the tombstone of Chicago. It couldn't have gotten much worse from Lori Lightfoot. It did. And Adams is worse than de Blasio. Higher crime. Wow. Now, remember I told you about Al Sharpton, who now shows up and talks about peace and I'm going to give you the fat version of Al Sharpton back when he used to produce riots that led to beatings, homicide, beating the hell out of Jews. Let's listen to Al Sharpton in 1992.
I would love to use love, but if I've got to use hate, I'll deal with what my hand calls for.
What he says is, I'd love to love, but if I deal with hate, I'll do what my hand calls for. And before that, he says, let's all get involved in offing the pigs. That's like the Black Lives Matter. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. This has been a theme of black radicals for quite some time. Black Lives Matter are trained by several police murderers who have been let out of jail by Clinton and Obama, who are now teaching Black Lives Matter how to encourage the killing of police officers, which they do at every protest when they say pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon, or I guess Sharpton's version of it, let's get involved in offing the pigs. In other words, kill the cops. These are leaders? Well, why the hell do you think you have so much crime? Why so much murder? Why are so many black mothers crying? Because these people are encouraging them to commit murder. And then that murder turns in on itself and on yourself. We're never going to solve it if we pretend. We're never going to solve it if we allow these people who are evil people to frighten us into agreeing to all their woke demands because we'll be called racist, which is, basically the American corporation, right? It's the same reason Nike and Budweiser are participating in the indoctrination of our children to become questioning about their sex, which then leads to their mutilation. It's because they don't want to be seen as insensitive or, look, if you can't stand up for the fact that there are two sexes, and that's pretty much a scientific fact, then you can't stand up for much. If I have to die on the altar of denying that there are more than two sexes or that men can get pregnant, I'll die on the altar. I think God will treat me very well. Since, what does it say in the first book of the Bible? He created them. Yes, he did. Men and women, he created them. He didn't say he created them men, women, they, he's, z's, p's, q's, and y's. It says in the Bible, he created them, men and women, he created them. See, two is binary, two. And then, unlike the Supreme Court justice who cannot define woman, I can define a woman. I'm not going to do it now on radio, but if you really force me to and you call up and you ask me to, I will, and I'll find a tasteful way of doing it. If you don't know the difference between a man and a woman, or you're afraid to say it, you shouldn't be on the Supreme Court. She should not be on the Supreme Court. That's outrageous that she, in fact, I think they should prosecute her for perjury. I think that's perjury that she can't tell the difference between men and women. Of course she can. She's just lying.
Well, Mayor, we are well into soccer time. A very fast.
7 minutes of soccer time.
Yeah. I guess you're right. We've been doing a lot of 90-minute episodes.
We don't have an audience tonight. Maybe tomorrow night we'll have an audience.
We'll invite some friends over. We had a very busy show last night.
I think we should get a wild and out of control audience.
So what's your closing message on this very busy news night?
Them.
Yeah. What is your closing message on this very busy news night, Mayor?
Always quiets the crowd down. It's good advice if you have a crowd. You want to go. I know everybody goes, quiet down, quiet down. I'm going to tell you, it works invariably. Go like this. My advice is don't lose patience. Things are getting really, really bad. They're feeling their oats, the radicals and the communists, and because they've accomplished a lot. I mean, they have. We have to continue working on organizing. I like the idea that the Republican primary is becoming somewhat more civil. I'd like you to listen to Trump's words. They've modified, not going to say 100%. We're not asking for miracles. I think you can see that they're coming in more toward, let's see if we can unite this thing. I cannot emphasize enough that this election means we have the ability to save the America and bring it back from the fascism and communism of Biden, or we could be lost. So let's keep our eye on the ball. And I can help you do that, and so many others. So stay with me. Come back tomorrow night on whatever social media you're on right now. If you're on Twitter, if you're on Getter, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Rumble, whichever one you're on, or try another one if you think it might be better. And then tomorrow I'll be on WABCradio.com, and our podcast will be out, Rudy Giuliani CS.com. And maybe we will play in the podcast, and maybe we'll play a little tomorrow night, the interview I did last night with John Mac Isaacs. And I'm not even going to tell you who he is. You're going to go look it up. John Mac Isaacs. You look it up, and then tomorrow night I'll tell you. I'll tell you on the radio show tomorrow. Okay. God bless you. God bless America. And I'm starting to be encouraged because I start seeing the numbers now. I'm starting to see the enthusiasm. I'm starting to see the numbers. I told Trump in 2016 when I saw the enthusiasm for the first time, really big, in May of 2016, he was going to win. And I never changed opinion, and he won. Now watch. Let's see what happens. God bless you. God bless America. We'll see you tomorrow.